The hallway inside Galactic Lab '09 was cold and bright. Metal walls hummed with silent energy. It was just another day at the biggest human research base in the Orion sector. But for Dr. Elia, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She was young too. Young. Some said for a place like this. Fresh out of academy. Nervous. And always looking over her shoulder. Today, she was supposed to help administer basic nanoserum doses to new workers. Harmless. Routine. No stress. But something went wrong. Room 12. Subject Z47. The digital voice said as she walked in. Inside, a man sat on the edge of a white exam table. Tall. Lean. Quiet. His name tag read Zane. He was just a cargo lifter from Earth Colony 6. Brown eyes. Tired shoulders. Grease still on his sleeves. He looked up as Elia walked in. Syringe in hand. "Hi," she said softly, trying to hide her trembling fingers. "This won't take long." Zane didn't respond. He simply nodded. She opened her kit. Inside were rows of glowing vials, blue for immune boosters, green for stamina upgrades. But one vial at the bottom was red. Strange. She had never seen red before. The label read, classified, Serum X, biohuman adaptation. Her heart skipped. This wasn't supposed to be in her case. She glanced at the room's camera, pretending to search for the correct vial. Her fingers hovered over the green, but her thoughts were scrambled. Maybe she grabbed the wrong kit. Maybe this red serum was just mislabeled. Behind her, Zane cleared his throat. "Everything okay?" "Yes. Just a moment," she said quickly. Panic, mixed with pressure. She didn't want to look weak. She didn't want to get reported again. So she grabbed the red vial and injected it without thinking. Click, the needle went in. Zane winced slightly, then rolled down his sleeve. "Done," she said, forcing a smile. "You may feel a little dizzy, but it'll pass." But as she packed up the kit, she saw the red vial's glow fading dot, and then Zane whispered, "My skin feels warm." Elia froze. Zane blinked, then stood. "It's like I can feel my blood moving." That's when Elia knew. She had made a terrible mistake. She rushed forward, placed a hand on Zane's arm, and whispered so softly only he could hear, "Don't tell anyone, please. You weren't supposed to get that." Zane stared at her. "What did you give me before?" She could answer. The room's door opened with a hiss. A tall man in a black coat entered. He scanned Zane, nodded once, then turned to Elia. "Next subject," he said flatly. "Move." Elia gave a shaky nod and left. Outside the room, she leaned against the wall, heart racing. "I gave him the wrong serum," she whispered to herself. "I injected subject X into a civilian." Meanwhile, inside, Zane rubbed his temples. His hearing sharpened. The sound of machines in the hallway became clear. He could even hear Elia's heartbeat. From outside, the door died. What was happening to him? As he walked out into the hallway, lights above flickered slightly. No one else seemed to notice. Zane blinked and saw the technicians walking down the corridor. He could hear their conversation, though they were whispering. Alpha 9's code just activated. Who triggered it? No record. Internal breach. Maybe. The word Alpha 9 echoed in Zane's mind. Suddenly, he felt dizzy again. He grabbed the wall to steady himself. When his hand touched the metal panel, it sparked. Zane jerked back in shock. Behind him, a cleaning droid stopped, its lights blinking wildly. It scanned Zane, and then rolled away without a word. Down the hallway, Elia watched from behind a wall, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. She knew what the red serum could do. It was not a medical aid. It was part of a top-secret human enhancement project, one never approved, one buried deep inside military files. And now, Zane had it in his blood. She whispered under her breath, "They'll come for him now." Back inside the lab, the black-coated man stood in front of a screen. It showed Zane's vital signs. His heart rate, brain activity, muscle tension all rising beyond normal. He pressed a button on his wristband. "Subject Alpha 9 has been activated. Notify Commander Rayner." And miles away, deep in the central lab core, Commander Rayner opened his eyes slowly. He smiled. "So, the experiment. Lives?" Zane stood in the break room of Cargo Bay 3, staring at the water dispenser. The buzzing in his ears hadn't stopped since the injection. Every noise felt louder. Every light looked sharper. Every shadow in the room darker than it should have. He reached for a plastic cup. The moment his fingers touched it, the thin plastic shattered in his hand. He quickly turned away, pretending to cough, hiding the broken pieces in the trash. No one noticed. But Zane did, and it scared him. His hands weren't even shaking. Later that day, he returned to work. Cargo drones buzzed overhead, unloading heavy metal crates from a docking ship. Zane was assigned to help guide them into place. The same thing he'd done for 3 years. Routine. Simple. But when one of the drone arms suddenly malfunctioned, dropping a 2-ton crate midair, everyone screamed and dove out of the way, except Zane. He didn't even think. His body moved on its own. He lunged forward and caught the crate with both hands. It shook the floor. Gasps echoed around the bay. Zane stared at the crate, stunned. It felt heavy, yes, but not impossible. It was like his muscles had become machines. Did he just stop that thing? Someone whispered. I think it broke a cable. No, he caught it. By evening, Zane sat alone in his bunk. His fingers twitched with energy. His heartbeat was steady, but somehow too steady, like a machine, like it wasn't his own. And the worst part, he hadn't told anyone, not even his best friend, Milo, who worked the same shift. He remembered Elia's voice in his ear. Don't tell anyone. Why not? What was she hiding? The next morning, the change became more obvious. He was the first one awake without an alarm. He finished his 8-hour shift in 3. He remembered the names of every person he saw, even people he passed for a second. And when he touched the terminal, just to check his work hours, the screen glitched. Lines of code flashed across the display. Not scheduled data, surveillance feeds. One showed a hallway camera, another, the cafeteria. A third showed Zane's own bunk. Someone was watching him. Zane stepped back. The screen went black. He turned. A janitor droid was watching him, but that wasn't possible. Droids didn't stare. That night, Zane left his bunk quietly and walked to the upper levels of the ship, where no one went without clearance. He needed answers. He found an old maintenance panel, forced it open, and climbed through. The pipes were hot, the metal cramped, but somehow he could see in the dark. His eyes adjusted unnaturally fast. He crawled to the top vent and looked down into a hidden control room, and what he saw chilled him. Elia. She was sitting with 2 men in black suits. One of them had cybernetic implants on his face. The other wore a badge that read Sector Intelligence Division. She knows something, Zane whispered. The man with the implants leaned forward. Are you certain the serum bonded with him? Elia nodded. He lifted a 2-ton crate like it was nothing. The second man scoffed. He's not trained. It's unstable. Elia frowned. He's not dangerous. The cyborg man spoke again. He's not human anymore. Zane's eyes widened. His chest tightened. Elia whispered, I didn't mean for this to happen. Suddenly, Zane heard metal tapping behind him. He turned. A small drone hovered silently in the dark. It had a glowing red dot. I had seen him. BZZZZT. The drone fired. Zane twisted away, narrowly avoiding the electric pulse. He fell from the vent, crashing into the control room below. Elia screamed. The 2 men stood, drawing weapons, but Zane was faster. He grabbed a chair and threw it across the room, smashing the control panels. Sparks flew. Alarms began to blare. Zane ran. He didn't wait. Down the hallway, through the service ducts, back into the cargo wing. Sirens echoed. Security breach. Intruder alert. Subject Alpha detected. Zane's face now showed up on every hallway screen. Someone was watching. Someone had plans for him. And now, they knew he was awake. Back in her lab, Elia sat frozen. She stared at the damage Zane left behind. The broken cameras, the disabled controls. She whispered to herself, they'll come for him now. They won't stop. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small data chip. Inside it was every secret about Serum X. She looked toward the broken doorway, toward the place where Zane had escaped, and made a decision. Zane sat alone at the edge of the docking bay, staring at his glowing reflection in the glass. His eyes, once brown, now shimmered with faint blue light. He clenched his fists. I don't know what's happening to me, he said quietly, but I won't be their lab rat. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Elia stood in the doorway, holding the chip. If you want the truth, she said, come with me. The shuttle was small, barely enough room for 2, but it moved like lightning through the blackness of space. Zane sat in silence, strapped into the co-pilot seat. Elia piloted from the front, her eyes locked on distant stars. Neither had spoken for the last 30 minutes. Zane's hands rested on his lap. He could still feel the hum of energy under his skin. His pulse beat slower now like a machine learning rhythm. He looked at Elia. You knew this would happen, he finally said, voice low. Elia hesitated before answering. I didn't mean for it to happen to you. Zane looked away. But it did. The shuttle passed a dead asteroid belt and slowed. As they approached a dark planet, no lights, no orbiters, no visible life, it looked abandoned. Elia pressed a series of codes into a glowing console. Suddenly, part of the asteroid belt opened like a mouth, revealing a hidden hangar bay beneath the surface. Where are we? Zane asked. Project Base, Section 7, she said. This is where they made Serum X. Inside the base, it was silent, cold, metal walls and floors, stretched into darkness. Red lights blinked on as they walked past. Zane looked around. No guards, no need, Elia said. Anyone who enters here is already one of them or never leaves. Zane's spine tightened. They passed locked doors, strange chambers, rooms filled with broken glass tanks. One tank still had dried blood inside. Another had claw marks etched in the metal. What happened here? Zane whispered. Elia looked straight ahead. Failed tests. Some subjects went insane. Others just vanished. Finally, they reached a door labeled Alpha Sector. Elia paused. I need you to see what they planned, she said. What they wanted to make out of you. Zane gave a slow nod. The door opened. Inside was a long hallway filled with holograms and glowing screens. Each screen showed files, videos, blueprints, faces of subjects, notes about injections, bio-readings. At the very end was a file titled Subject Alpha 9, Activation Success. It showed Zane's face. Zane stepped closer, jaw tightening. They've been watching me since the injection? No, Elia said. Since before that. Zane turned. What? Elia sighed. You weren't chosen randomly. You were always on the list. You're genetically perfect for the serum. They've been following you for years. Zane's world tilted. My parents, they were monitored too, Elia said quietly. They died in a so-called transport accident, right? Zane nodded slowly. Elia swallowed hard. That wasn't an accident. Zane backed away, shaking his head. You're saying they killed my parents just to keep me on this path. Elia didn't answer. She didn't have to. Zane clenched his fists. Sparks of static flashed between his fingers. He wanted to scream, wanted to tear the place apart, but instead, he looked straight at her. Why are you helping me? Elia stepped closer. Her voice cracked. Because I made the same mistake once. A boy younger than you. I injected him without knowing the serum was live. He didn't survive. She blinked away tears. I promised myself if I ever got another chance, I'd do better. Zane stared at her. I don't trust you, he said. You don't have to, Elia replied. But if you want answers, you need what's in the vault. They moved deeper into the facility until they reached a giant circular door embedded in steel. Elia held up a key chip, only to exist. I stole one. The door opened with a low rumble, revealing the vault room, a wide dome with floating data cores, weapons, and cryo chambers. In the center floated something that looked like a heart made of light. That's the serum core, Elia said. The source. It's alive. Zane stepped closer. As he neared, the core pulsed faster, matching his heartbeat. It was like it recognized him. Suddenly, the room filled with a soft robotic voice. Alpha 9 confirmed. Welcome back, Commander. Zane froze. Elia's eyes went wide. I didn't do that, she whispered. The voice continued. Project Ascension now ready for Phase 2. Zane's mouth went dry. What the hell is Phase 2? Before Elia could answer, the vault door slammed shut. A screen activated. And on it appeared a man with sharp silver eyes, sitting on a throne made of chrome and glass. He smiled. Zane, he said. We've been waiting. The man on the screen didn't blink. He stared at Zane like he already owned him. His silver eyes shimmered unnaturally, reflecting the glowing core behind Zane like a mirror. Do you know who I am? The man asked. Calmly, Zayn stepped forward, fist clenched. No, the man smiled. I'm the reason you exist. Elia whispered beside him. That's Commander Raynor, head of the Serum Division. He disappeared 2 years ago. I didn't disappear, Raynor replied. Clearly hearing her, I ascended, just like Zane will. Zane shook his head. I'm not becoming whatever you are. Raynor laughed. You already are. The walls pulsed with energy as his voice echoed from every speaker. You're not just human anymore, Zane. You're the first successful Alpha. We've tried with hundreds. They all failed. But you're perfect. Zane's breathing grew faster. What do you want from me? Not much, Rayner said with a tilt of his head. Just for you to fulfill your destiny. The lights in the vault dimmed. Mechanical arms extended from the walls. Doors sealed. Energy fields crackled around them. You have the options, Alpha 9. Accept the upgrade protocol, or be disassembled, Elia screamed. Run. Zane didn't wait. He grabbed her arm and darted toward the back wall. It looked solid, but his instinct screamed something else. The walls weren't just walls, they were designed to trap, not protect, and Zane's eyes, now glowing with faint blue lines, began seeing through them. There. He pointed. He punched straight through the panel and it cracked open, revealing a hidden tunnel behind it. Go. He yelled. They ran. Behind them, metallic claws and shock cables whipped through the air, barely missing them. Sirens blared. Across the facility, Subject Alpha escaping. Terminate immediately. The tunnel twisted downward. Deep into the asteroid, the air grew hot. Steam leaked from pipes overhead. Elia gasped for breath. They'll launch the kill drone soon. Zane didn't answer. He could feel his body changing, responding. His legs moved faster than before. His skin absorbed the heat instead of burning. His eyes scanned the pulse ahead in milliseconds. This wasn't just adrenaline. It was the serum, and somehow, he was controlling it. They burst into a wide chamber filled with old mining equipment. The machines had long been shut down, but the room held something more valuable. An old evac ship. Small, hidden, powered down. Zane ran toward it. But suddenly BZZZT. A laser bolt blasted into the wall next to him. They were here. 100 droids dropped from the ceiling, sleek, silent, and deadly. Each had one glowing red eye and rotating blades for hands. Zane stood in front of Elia. Stay behind me. The droids charged. One lunged straight for him. Zane ducked, slid under the spinning blade, and punched upward into the droid's chest. It exploded like glass. Sparks flew everywhere. The second droid turned to Elia. Zane roared, sprinted, and leapt. 5 meters through the air, slamming into the bond like a meteor. They crashed into the ground. Zane rose slowly, covered in dust, his skin flickering with blue light. The second droid didn't move again. Elia stared at him, wide-eyed. You shouldn't be able to do that. Zane didn't look at her. I don't think there's a should anymore. They reached the ship. It was old, but the controls flickered to life the moment Zane touched the dashboard. The system didn't ask for ID. It just unlocked. He sat at the controls. Let's get out of here. As the engines roared to life, a massive explosion shook the tunnel. Rayner's voice boomed through the radio. You can run, Alpha, but you belong to us. You always have. Zane's hand hovered over the launch lever. He stared ahead, eyes burning. No, he said softly. I don't belong to anyone. He pulled the lever. The ship blasted through the tunnel, up into space, dodging fallen rocks and collapsing hangar beams. As they cleared the asteroid's surface, it exploded behind them. They were safe for now. Hours later, drifting in dark space, Zane sat in silence. His muscles still hummed with power. His eyes still glowed, but his heart felt heavier. He turned to Elia. What happens now? She opened the data chip she had stolen earlier. I think this has all the answers. Every test, every lie, every person they changed. Zane leaned back. I didn't ask for any of this. No, Elia said, but you survived it. He looked at the stars outside the window. No, he said, I beat it. Zane's sleep had become something strange. Not dreams, but visions, flashes of metal, fire, voices speaking in dead languages, a child crying underwater, his own face split with light standing above a world in flames. He would wake up breathless, drenched in sweat, heart thudding like a war drum. And outside the shuttle window, space just stared back. Silent. Cold. Unforgiving. They had drifted into the neutral zone, a gray strip of lawless stars where bounty hunters, rogue empires, and black market empires played games older than history. Zane and Elia couldn't go to Earth. They'd be caught. Couldn't stay on space stations. Too many eyes. So they landed on Krail 4, a dusty, broken mining planet at the edge of the spiral arm, a forgotten place, home to outcasts and marks. Elia traded tech parts to buy them shelter. Zane kept 2 shadows, but even shadows have eyes. One night, while Zane helped repair a water generator outside their bunker, he felt it again, that hum in the air. Not energy, not wind, a presence. He stood slowly. A small coin spun through the air and landed in front of him. perfectly balanced on his edge. A voice came from the darkness, calm, smooth. Subject Alpha 9. You've grown into the body well. Zane turned. A tall figure stepped into the light. Black coat, shaved head, one eye replaced with a glowing green orb. A hunter. Zane didn't move. Who are you? Name's not important, the man said, smiling. But the contract, oh, that's very real. Zane reacted a second delayed. Bang, a shot dart fired from the man's wrist. It struck Zane's shoulder, lighting up his body in painful electricity. He dropped to one knee. The hunter stepped closer, holding up a containment sphere the size of a skull. Don't fight, Alpha. I'm only here to collect. Zane growled through his teeth. Then collect this. He ripped the dart out and flung it back. It hit the hunter square in the face. Zane charged, body surging with blue light. They collided like meteors. Fists flew, sparks burned. The ground cracked beneath them. The hunter was good, but Zane was no longer human. Not entirely. In the end, Zane stood above the broken man, breathing hard, hands shaking, not from fear, but from power. He stared at his palms. Veins glowed electric. His eyes flickered between blue and white. Ilya ran from the bunker, wide-eyed. Are you okay? Zane didn't answer. He called me Alpha, just like Raynor. Ilya knelt and scanned the hunter's wrist chip, her face pale. This was just one of them. She said, there's more. Zane looked at the stars. How many? She showed him the hologram, intergalactic bounty notice, Alpha 9. Dead or alive minus 50 million credits. His face, his name, everywhere. In the days that followed, they kept moving. Planet to planet. Asteroid hideouts, forgotten colonies. But they were always just a step ahead of death. Zane faced 6 more hunters. One with plasma claws, one who used shadows like weapons, another who could control machines with a whistle, each one stronger than the last. Each time, Zane barely survived, but with every fight, he changed more. Faster. Sharper. And something inside him was waking up. After a narrow escape on a moon called Davin, Zane and Ilya found shelter in a hollowed-out cargo freighter buried in sand. Ilya finally spoke the truth. There's something else I didn't tell you. Zane didn't look at her. What now? The Serum X, she said. It wasn't just designed to make you strong. He turned slowly. It was built to awaken memory, not just from this life, but from lives before. Zane frowned. I don't understand. She whispered, you're not just Alpha 9. You're something older. She pulled up a hidden file. Zane's face appeared again, but in a much older file. One buried in pre-Earth War archives. It's you, she said, from over 100 years ago. Zane stepped back. That's not possible. It is, she said. Raynor didn't just create you. He rebuilt you. From ancient DNA, from records of a soldier once called Project Nova. You died in the last human war, but he brought you back. Zane sat in silence. So he wasn't just a man with new power. He was resurrected. Later that night, as he stood on the ship's wing staring at the stars, Zane whispered to himself, if I've lived before, I wonder how many times I've died. Behind him, Ilya stepped forward. There's someone you need to meet, she said. Zane turned. Who? Ilya handed him a small chip, another Alpha, one who escaped. He calls himself Alpha 1, and he wants to help. Zane stared at the chip, heart racing. A new voice played in his ear, deep, rough, and familiar. If you're hearing this, that means you've survived. Good, because now we fight back. Zane sat inside the abandoned control room of the freighter, staring at the projection of a man who looked like he had fought 1,000 wars. Alpha-1. Bald head, one arm missing, the other made of titanium. His face was lined with scars, but his eyes were alive, burning. Raynor turned us into weapons, Alpha 1 said in the recording. But we are not machines. We are human, and humans fight back. The message ended with coordinates blinking on the screen. Zane didn't hesitate. We go there, he said to Ilya. She nodded, lips tight. Let's end what they started. 3 days later, they landed on a hidden planet called Theron 9, buried under clouds of ash. Invisible to scanners, they were greeted by shadows moving between burnt trees. Survivors. Not just dozens. Men and women with glowing veins, metal bones, haunted eyes. Some could float. Some had claws. Some didn't speak at all. All of them were Alpha subjects. The failed ones. The escaped ones. The forgotten ones. Zane stepped forward. They stared at him. Whispered his code. Alpha 9. Then from the back, a large figure walked through the crowd. Alpha-1. He stopped in front of Zane, looked him up and down. "You're stronger than I was," he said, "but are you ready to stop running?" Zane nodded. Yes. That night, inside an underground bunker, Alpha-1 showed them everything, the truth. A map of Raynor's network, a list of over 600 children being raised in test chambers, future Alpha subjects. "They call it Project Genesis now," Alpha-1 growled. "They want to replace humanity with something obedient, controlled, programmed." Zane clenched his fists. "And they think we're step one." Alpha-1 grinned. "Then it's time to be the last step." They built a plan, not to run, not to hide. To strike. Elia created virus codes to disable Raynor's defenses. The other Alphas trained Zane combat, mind control resistance, power focus. In just 1 week, Zane's abilities reached a new level. He could stop bullets midair. He could walk through fire. He could bend light around him and vanish, but his heart, that remained painfully human. One night, alone in the canyon beyond camp, Zane sat on a rock, staring at a broken moon in the sky. Elia sat beside him. "You okay?" she asked. Zane was quiet for a while. "I don't want to kill them," he said. "I just want them to stop." Elia nodded. "But they won't." Zane looked at his hands. "What if I'm becoming what they built me to be?" Elia turned to him, voice soft. "No. What you choose to do, that's what makes you human." He nodded slowly, then stood. "Then I choose to fight." The next morning, they boarded a stolen warship cloaked in asteroid dust. Their target, Echelon Station, the heart of Project Genesis. Elia uploaded the virus into the system. Zane suited up in a black armor made from memory-plated tech. It moved like skin, protected like steel. Alpha-1 gathered the others. "Remember," he said, voice firm, "we are not experiments. We are not numbers. We are what happens when humanity refuses to die." Everyone raised their fists. Zane stood at the front. And then the stars turned red. The ship punched through Echelon's outer defenses like a comet. Alarms rang across the station. Zane and the Alphas dropped from orbit like thunder. They hit the hangar floor and spread out, taking down droids and soldiers with terrifying speed. Zane moved like lightning, dodging plasma shots, disabling auto turrets, ripping open security doors. He wasn't just powerful. He was awake. Inside the core lab, children huddled in glass chambers, dozens of them, sleeping, hooked to machines. Zane stared, chest tight. "They're just kids," he whispered. "Not for long," Alpha-1 said. "Raynor planned to activate them in a week." Elia worked fast, hacking the chamber controls. "I can't wake them all," she said. "Not safely. You have to buy me time." Zane nodded. "I'll give you all I've got." As Elia freed the children, Zane stormed the control tower, where Raynor waited. It was time. The room was silent as Zane entered. Raynor sat in a chair, watching the stars. "You came," he said. "Good. I wanted to see it." Zane stepped forward. "See what?" Raynor turned slowly. "You," he said, smiling, choosing evolution. He pressed a button. The walls dropped away, revealing an army of robotic Alpha drones, each built from Zane's stolen data. "You may be the first," Raynor said, "but you're no longer the strongest." Zane cracked his knuckles. "Let's test that." And then the battle began. Zane stood still, heart thudding. The entire room around him was shifting, walls turning, floors rotating, machinery rising from the ground. And in every corner, glowing red eyes came to life. Raynor's voice echoed through the air, cold and satisfied. "Meet the future, Zane. Alpha-10 through Alpha-99. Based on you, improved by me." Zane looked up. The robotic Alpha drones dropped from the ceiling like shadows, perfect, soulless, fast. "Made of metal and memory." He whispered. "You cloned my pain." Raynor tilted his head, smiling. "I refined your purpose." And then they attacked. A wave of pure speed and violence. Zane met them head on. His body moved like it already knew what to do, dodging, weaving, striking. Every punch he landed cracked. Steel. Every blow he took made him stronger. But there were too many. He was thrown against a wall. Metal arms grabbed him. Blades slashed at his armor. Zane screamed in pain. But in that scream, something awoke. His veins glowed gold. Not blue. Gold. His body stopped shaking. He rose slowly, eyes shining like the sun. "Enough," he said. In the air shifted. Raynor leaned forward on his throne. "What is this?" Elia's voice came through the comms. It's the final stage of the serum, she said breathlessly. He's not evolving anymore. He's transcending. Zane looked at his hands. They weren't just glowing, they were alive. Not mechanical, not synthetic, pure energy, pure will. He wasn't a weapon. He was something new, something human. And more, Zane moved again. This time, the robots weren't fast enough. He moved between them like a storm. His punches didn't just break metal, they melted it. He tore through their ranks, disabling 10 in seconds. Raynor shouted, "Activate!" Neural override. The drones froze, then turned to each other. They began copying Zane's every move. He had become the virus.zay and realized it then. "I'm not just their target," he whispered. "I'm their blueprint." He reached out and the drones stopped moving. Their red eyes turned white. They stepped back. Raynor screamed, "No, they obey me." Zane looked at the throne. Not anymore. He walked to the command console and placed his hand on the control core. His energy spread like fire through the entire station. Doors opened. Power grids shut down. Security systems crashed. In the lower levels, the Alpha children woke from sleep, breathing real air for the first time. Elia ran to them, tears in her eyes. "You're free," she whispered. Back in the control tower, Raynor grabbed a hidden weapon, a pulse cannon. "You ruined everything," he growled. "We could have ruled together." Zane stepped forward. "Calm. You destroyed people. You played God, and you lost." Raynor fired. The pulse hit Zane in the chest. But Zane didn't fall. He kept walking. 1 step, 2, 3. He placed a hand on Raynor's weapon and it turned to dust. Raynor stumbled back. "What are you?" Zane looked into his eyes. "I'm still human," he said. "That's what you could never control." And with that, Raynor collapsed, crying. Broken. Defeated. The rest of the Alpha stormed the tower. Alpha 1 found Zane standing over the ruined throne. "You did it," Alpha 1 said. "You ended it." Zane shook his head. "No, we did." Hours later, as the survivors gathered in the hangar, Zane stood before them. He looked around at faces, once filled with fear, now full of hope. "You're not test subjects," he said. "You're not numbers. You're not failed projects. You're proof," he continued, "that even when we are changed, broken, hurt, we're still human. And humans," he raised his voice, "humans always fight back." The crowd erupted in cheers. Zane and Elia stood at the edge of the landing bay. The stars stretched before them. She smiled. "Where will you go now?" Zane looked up. "Anywhere. Everywhere." He touched his chest, where the serum once flowed. "It's not about what they put in me. It's what I choose to do with it." Elia nodded. "Then go do something good." Zane smiled, then stepped aboard a new ship, one with no number, no name. Just freedom. As the engines lit up and the ship rose into the sky, the voice of Alpha 1 came through the radio. "You are never just Alpha 9. You're the first of something better." Months later, a child on a quiet planet found an old helmet half buried in the dirt. He picked it up and dusted it off. Inside was a name, Zane, human. The child looked to the stars and whispered. He was real.